Good day, everybody. I hope that you're well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today, we'll be doing our grade 5 to 8 English lesson on reflexive pronouns. And before we start, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once you've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of English language arts. We're doing grade 5 to 8, and then we're going to scroll down up until we get to our chapter of reflexive pronouns. All right. So our chapter is reflexive pronouns. Our subject is English language arts. We're doing grade 5 to 8. And the lessons that we are going to be focusing on under the chapter of reflexive pronouns is to choose between personal and reflexive pronouns. And we're going to use reflexive pronouns. All right. So when it comes to reflexive pronouns, right? Then reflexive pronouns are pronouns that either end in self or it end in selves. So it either ends in self or it ends in selves. And we're going to look at a few reflexive pronouns, right? You have subject, you'll have the reflexive pronoun where we identify either the singular subject or the plural subject and how we can identify or when we can use either the word self or selves. And if you look at our singular subject, right? If we have singular subjects that refers to either one person or thing or so on, right? Then our reflexive pronoun and our singular subject, it needs to basically, go hand in hand. So when it comes to our singular subjects, then our reflexive pronouns, it end in self. So singular subjects with reflexive pronouns, it then ends in self. So if we use the singular subject, if we refer to a singular subject, I, if you refer to the singular subject, I, then I needs to, it needs to basically refer back to myself. So it's almost like saying I, myself, or um, I did something myself. I cleaned the kitchen all by myself. So the word, the reflexive pronoun myself, it refers back to our pronoun, which is I. Or I refer back to the pronoun, which is the reflexive pronoun, which is myself. So I, myself. When we use the singular subject I, then the reflexive pronoun needs to refer back to our subject, and the reflexive pronoun is myself. Then if we have our or our singular subject, which is refers to you, like one person, you. And then a reflexive pronoun that refers back to a singular subject, you, is yourself. Did you do that by yourself? Did you go to the park all by yourself? Something like that, or something in that lines. If we look at the singular subject she, our singular subject she needs to refer to our reflexive pronoun herself. So herself needs to refer back to she. She did it all by herself. He attempted the maths homework by himself. And then we have it, and our reflexive pronoun is itself. So itself needs to refer back to our singular subject, it. Then we have our plural subjects, and plural subject refers to two or more either people or things. And we have our reflexive pronouns. And when it comes to our reflexive pronouns and the plural subject, the reflexive pronouns or what that refers back to the plural subject, it ends in selves, VES, selves, refers to two or more. So now we have our plural subject, we. And we, it has the reflexive pronoun ourselves. And ourselves, which is the reflexive pronoun, needs to refer back to our subject plural, which is we. We have you. You can this you refers to more than one person. Then we have you refers to more than one. Then we can say yourselves needs to refer back to you. Then they and themselves needs to refer back to they. Right? So these are once again reflexive pronouns. We have singular subject that goes with our reflexive pronouns, as well as plural subject that goes with our reflexive pronouns. And when it comes to the reflexive pronouns, these reflexive pronouns, right, it needs to refer back to the subject in the sentence. Myself refers back to I. Yourself refers back to you. Herself refers back to she. Himself refers back to he. Itself refers back to it. Same with the plural. Ourselves refers back to we. Yourselves refer back to you. And themselves refer back to them. All right. And once again, we said a reflexive pronoun, it is used to refer back to the subject of the sentence or clause in which it appears. And these reflexive pronouns, right, it needs to agree with the subject, whether it is singular subject or plural subject. And if you look at a few examples, right, it says we helped ourselves to some more soup. You see, we. Here we have we. It says we, which is we, helped ourselves to some more soup. So we helped ourselves to some more soup. So do you see how our reflexive pronoun refers back to our subject? So ourselves refer back to we. And that is what we need to keep in mind. Here's another one. It says, after the guests left, Amy made herself a cup of tea. So Amy, yeah, they're just giving us the actual noun, not the pronoun. But if we were to substitute Amy, right, with a pronoun, then it will be she. So now you see here we go to she over here. After the guest left, she made herself a cup of tea. So do you see how the reflexive pronoun refers back to the subject of the sentence? Your reflexive pronoun needs to refer back to the subject of the sentence. And remember, when it comes to the reflexive pronouns, right? These reflexive pronouns, myself, yourself, herself, himself, itself, ourselves, yourselves, themselves. Our reflexive pronouns, it can only be used to refer back to the subject of the sentence or clause that it appears. So myself needs to refer back to I within a sentence. Yourself needs to refer to you in a sentence. Herself needs to refer back to she in a sentence. Himself needs to refer back to he in a sentence. Itself needs to refer back to it in a sentence. And the same with our plural subjects, where ourselves needs to refer back to we, yourselves needs to refer back to you, and themselves needs to refer back to they. If it does not do that, and it refers to something or someone else, then we call that a personal pronoun. So here it says a reflexive pronoun can only be used to refer back to the subject of a sentence or clause in which it appears. And to refer to someone else or something else, we call that a personal pronoun. For example, personal pronouns like me, you, him, her, it, us, or them. That should be used instead. And we're going to look at a few examples now of reflexive of basically personal pronouns. Or we need to see if it's a personal pronoun or if it's a personal pronoun or reflexive pronoun, right? It says Jake wrote a note for himself. Jake wrote a note for himself. For himself. And if we were to identify if we were to say if that is either reflexive pronoun or if it is a personal pronoun, Jake, right? Jake is a boy. So we can, if we were to replace the word Jake, we can say he wrote a note for himself. There we have he wrote a note for himself, which means that this is a reflexive pronoun because it refers back to the subject. Then the next one says Jake wrote a note for him. Jake wrote a note for him. And if we look at the word him, right, then we can clearly see that this is not a reflexive pronoun because we see that reflexive pronouns either end in self or selves. And here we said personal pronouns. If you refer to someone else, like me, you, him, her, it, us, or them, you see, like Jake wrote a note for him over there. This is a personal pronoun. Right? So that is a personal pronoun. Remember, personal pronouns, it refers to someone else or to something else, whereas a reflexive pronoun, it refers back to the subject, whether it is a singular subject or a plural subject, either within the sentence or within the clause. All right, so now we're going to A plus students. Let's see, A, we're going to choose between personal and reflexive pronouns, and we're going to use reflexive pronouns. All right. And we already went over what a personal pronoun is as well as reflexive pronoun. So let us go to our test. Remember, reflexive pronoun, it needs to refer back to the subject of the sentence or clause, whereas a personal pronoun, it refers to something or someone else. Reflexive pronouns, it ends in self or selves, right? Whereas personal pronouns do not. It's him, her, them, us, and so on. All right, it says other guests. We need to select the best pronoun to complete the sentence. It says other guests help. Do we say themselves to refreshments from trays on the kitchen counter? Or do we say the guests helps them to refreshments from the trays on the kitchen counter? Which one is correct? Themselves or them? So we need to choose the correct option. And if we were to choose the correct option, we can say the guests helped themselves to refreshments from the trays on the kitchen counter. Well done. So that is a reflexive pronoun. Well done. The next one says, will you please give myself directions to the Springdale Community Center? Or do we say, will you please give me directions to the Springdale Community Center? Myself, option one, or me, option two. Which one is correct? And if we were to choose the correct option, then we can say that, will you please give me directions to the Springdale Community Center? Yes, well done. Me is correct, which means that that is a personal pronoun. She told themselves about the hundreds of thousands of craters on Mars, or she told them about the hundreds of thousands of craters on Mars. Which one is correct? And if we were to choose the correct option, then we can say she told them about the hundreds of thousands of craters on Mars. So them is the correct answer. She bought, do we say herself, option one, an easel, a few canvases, and a set of paints? Or do we say she bought themselves an easel, a few canvases, and a new set of paints? Which one is correct? And if we were to choose the correct option, then we can say she bought an easel. She bought herself an easel, so which means that that is a reflexive pronoun because herself refers back to she. She did something for herself. They promise themselves, option one, a trip to Alaska by the end of next year, or they promised yourself a trip to Alaska by the end of next year. Which one is correct? Option 1, themselves, or option 2, yourself? And if we were to choose the correct option, we'll say they promised themselves a trip to Alaska by the end of next year. Well done. Themselves is correct. That is a reflexive pronoun. Now we're going to use the reflexive pronouns, right? And remember we said that the reflexive pronoun, it needs to refer back to the subject. Reflexive pronouns that end with self, it refers back to the singular subjects. Reflexive pronouns that ends with selves refers back to the plural subjects of a sentence. All right, so we need to use reflexive pronouns. Complete the sentence with a pronoun that refers back to the subject. It says, performer, option 1, told she, option 2, or told herself, option 3, to relax, but the screaming fans in the audience made her nervous. Which one is correct? So which one is correct? Performer, she, or herself. Which one is correct? We are referring to the reflexive pronouns. And if we were to choose the correct option, we would say the performer told herself, because herself is a reflexive pronoun. So well done. The next one says the dinner party was great fun, but Bob started nodding off and had to excuse Bob, option 1, had to excuse he, option 2, or had to excuse himself, option 3. Which one is correct? And if we were to choose the correct option, we would say the dinner party was great fun, but Bob started nodding off and had to excuse himself. So himself is our reflexive pronoun. So using the hose and lots of rags, we wash the car by we, option one, or we wash the car by ourselves, option two. We need to choose the correct option. We, option one, or ourselves, option two. All right, and if we were to choose the correct option, then we can say using the hose and lots of rags, we wash the car by ourselves. Yes, ourselves is correct. Yes, well done. Ourselves is correct. The next one says the likeness, the no, not the likeness, the lifelike dinosaur models were so popular that the exhibition ended up paying for it. Option one, ended up paying for ourselves, option two, or ended up paying for itself, option three. Which one is correct? Option one, option two, option three. So the lifelike dinosaur models were so popular that the exhibition ended up paying for it, or they ended up paying for ourselves, or ended up paying for itself. Which one is correct? And if we were to choose the correct option, then yes, well done. Itself is correct. Well done. Itself is correct. All right. It says you always give you a hard time. Or do we say you always give yourself a hard time? Or do you say you always give ourselves a hard time? But we all think about, we think we all, but we all think you are the hardest working person we know. So do we say you always give you a hard time? You always give yourself a hard time, or you always give ourselves a hard time? Which one is correct? All right, and if we were to choose the correct option, we will say you always give yourself option two. Yes, well done. Yourself a hard time, but we all think you are the hardest working person we know. Well done. Yourself is correct. The next one says we visit the Golden Gate Railroad Museum each year, and I always treat I to something from the gift shop? Or do we say, and I always treat myself to something from the gift shop? Or do we say, and I always treat ourselves to something from the gift shop? Which one is correct? All right, and if we were to choose the correct option, we would say we visit the Golden Gate Railroad Museum each year, and I always treat myself, yes, well done, myself, to something from the gift shop. Well done. All right, so this is now the end of our lesson on reflexive pronouns. And we said when it comes to reflexive pronouns either end in self or selves. The reflexive pronouns that end in self, it basically refers back to the singular subjects. And the reflexive pronouns that end in selves refers back to the plural subjects. And remember that a reflexive pronoun, it needs to refer back to the subject of a sentence, right? In order for it, to identify as a reflexive pronoun. Whereas a personal pronoun, it refers to something else, something or someone else. All right, so this is now the end of our lesson. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining. And I really hope you're going to have a good weekend further. So, till next time, goodbye. All right, so this is now the end of our lesson. Goodbye, everybody. See you guys on Monday. Yes, we are still going to have A plus classes for the duration of your winter break. I think we're only having a I think I think we're not having classes on Christmas Day and I think the 26th and the 1st of January. That's the only thing that I can tell you, but we're also having classes on Monday and I think on Tuesday. I'm not sure. I will double check, but definitely there will be class on Monday. So we are having classes for the duration of your winter break. All right. Bye guys.